Before I talk about the Los Angeles Clippers, let's do a little bit of house cleaning. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you are so inclined. We do player breakdowns, team breakdowns, basically reacting to anything basketball related, NBA news, NBA trade rumors. The trade deadline is coming up in a few days, this week already. So we will be reacting to that as well. But while you are here, let's talk about the now number one seed in the Western Conference, Los Angeles Clippers. I know I have done a few videos already on the Los Angeles Clippers, the first one being about how everybody was wrong about the James Harden trade, and then also talking about Kawhi Leonard and how he's been healthy this year and playing at an MVP caliber level. But I'm sorry, I have to talk about the Clippers again because they just keep winning and they just keep proving that this team could absolutely come out of the Western Conference, and I would not be surprised in the slightest. They are now the number one seed after the Oklahoma City Thunder lost to the Utah Jazz tonight at the time of this recording, and they are obviously done with their 7-game road trip in which they finished 6-1. After capping off a very high-scoring win over the Atlanta Hawks on the road, and that kind of just describes just what this Clippers team is. They can win in a variety of ways, whether it be a defensive battle like the one on Sunday versus the Miami Heat, or, win high-scoring games with teams like the Hawks or the Indiana Pacers. They have star power, they have role players, they have all types of different lineups that are effective, and that Ty Lue, the head coach of it all, of course, can just put chess pieces on the board and figure out what works and what doesn't. I think in the week since I released my one big question for every Western Conference contender, in which I listed a big question or a thing that I was interested in tracking with the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Clippers, and the Nuggets, I kind of had the Nuggets and the Clippers just a little bit in a higher tier above the Wolves and the Thunder, and I think that tier has only widened since then. I think the Clippers and the Nuggets are clearly the two best teams in the Western Conference with respect to the Timberwolves and the Thunder, and with respect to the fact that seeds 1 through 4 are literally separated by half a game, but within those 1 through 4 seeds, I think the Clippers and the Nuggets are clearly the two best teams. The Timberwolves, they haven't really done anything to kind of quell the concerns of their offensive issues, especially in crunch time. And with the Thunder, my questions still remain the same. Are they going to be able to rebound in the playoffs? And then also the youth of their team and their relative experience. And then with the Nuggets, it doesn't need to be said, they're the defending champions. They have the best player in the world and the best starting 5 in the NBA. With the Clippers, they can do all types of different things. Go big, go small, and they have a top 5 to 7 player in the NBA in Kawhi Leonard, and he morphs into a top 3 to 5 player in the playoffs. Listen to these numbers in the last 30 games from Kawhi Leonard. 26.4 points per game, nearly 7 rebounds a game, 4 assists per game, over 1.5 steals per game on 57% shooting and 51% from 3 on nearly 5 attempts per game. And 30 games is a pretty big sample size. And not only is Kawhi Leonard just deadly efficient offensively, he is back to peak Kawhi on defense. This is the best Kawhi Leonard has looked just two-way wise in the regular season since the 2016-2017 season with the Spurs, where he was just an all-world level destroyer on both ends. Now, obviously, Kawhi has been elite when he has played over the last few years, minus that, 2021-22 season where he missed the entire year because of an ACL, but we never really felt like it was peak Kawhi Leonard unless it became playoff time. And this season, outside of a 4-game absence because of a hip contusion thing that he was dealing with, he has played in every game, he's been healthy, and he's just absolutely dominating, and I think he's in the MVP conversation. I mean, that Miami game on Sunday, he absolutely took over that second half on both ends of the floor, making plays. using his arms and his hands to just simply take the ball away from the opposition, and then just drilling line drive pull-up three-pointers, getting to his spots as usual, getting the ball in transition and quickly dunking it because he just has giant hands and that ball looks like an orange in his hand and he could dunk it so quickly. And then James Harden, of course, just slotting in perfectly as that third star, while Paul George continues to have a good season, though he has been struggling shooting the ball a little bit recently, but I expect that to normalize. But on both ends of the floor, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and yes, James Harden too, have been playing fantastic. The Clippers now hold the number one offense in the NBA per cleaning the glass. They have a 122.4 offensive rating, and they are 8th in defense with a 114.0 defensive rating. And that is the mark of a contender, first of all, when both your offense and your defensive rating are in the top 10. You have multiple stars. And like in the Miami game, again, just to use that for reference, if Paul George is struggling shooting the ball a little bit, if Kawhi Leonard has a spell where he's not, shooting or getting the ball, James Harden can just take over the fourth quarter and hit step back threes. And James Harden in his last 30 games, 18 points a game, nearly 10 assists per game, 5 rebounds a game on efficient shooting 42.5% from 3 on nearly 7 attempts per game, while also finishing at the rim better this year compared to, basically since the first half of his first season in Brooklyn. This Clippers team is good, man. Norm Powell off the bench, just once again, severely underrated. Norm Powell is just one of those guys that could just, I know it's a cliche, casual thing to say, but that man can just hoop. It's just simple as that. He's shooting like 5,000% on corner threes, shooting 45% from 3 overall on the season, and is just somebody that's a spark off the bench scoring wise. Russell Westbrook doing whatever he's asked of him, coming off the bench, just providing an injection of energy. Zubac just got back after a multi-week absence from that calf strain, and that pick and roll between him and Harden before Zubac went out was perfected. And then Mason Plumlee stepped in to fill in that role. Daniel Tice has also been an awesome pickup. I just like that the Clippers can just go with a bunch of different lineups, and they can go with a bunch of different staggers too, like Ty Lue has been going with the whole, take Kawhi off the court first and then roll with a Paul George and James Harden lineup, and those lineups have been absolutely killing teams. The Clippers are a plus 14.2 in terms of net rating when it's James Harden and Paul George on the court with Kawhi Leonard off. And then, of course, James Harden and Kawhi Leonard led lineups, they're not playing as much together, but they are still a plus 7, which is really good. They just have a bunch of different lineups they can go to. Now, this is just strictly eye test, but I feel like lately the James Harden, Russell Westbrook lineups have been playing a bit better, even though I'm sure they're still a minus. I think they're a minus 0.5 or something in terms of net rating when it's those two leading lineups together, but I feel like they've been playing better. I just like the optionality the Clippers have. You look up in the game, sometimes you're watching a Clippers game, and every time Amir Coffey is on the court, he's doing something good, whether it be an offensive rebound or quick shooting a corner 3. He's shooting like 42% from 3 this season. Terrence Mann, since the new year, has been shooting way better from 3, shooting like 49%. Obviously, I don't expect that to hold up, but at least he is shooting more and shooting better, because the Clippers absolutely need that. He's going to get all the open shots he can off of Paul George, Kawhi, and James Harden. And Zach Lowe mentioned this in his recent podcast, but it looks like the Clippers are still kind of sniffing around to see what they could shore up at the trade deadline. And as if they needed any more pieces, I mean, if they could get somebody, I don't know who they have in mind, but if they could get somebody they think can get 15 to 18 minutes in the rotation, then obviously that's going to add a lot more to this team. Look, I know people want to do the thing where it's like, oh, it's the Clippers, we always believe in them every year. I just think that's lazy analysis. We just saw this team in the Western Conference Finals in the 2020-21 season. Kawhi Leonard had one of the best series I have ever seen from a basketball player in that Mavericks series, had one of the best elimination games I've seen from a player in that Mavericks series, and then he tore his ACL in the Jazz series, and they still made the Western Conference Finals. Now, obviously, the Clippers lost in the play-in tournament to the Timberwolves in the 2021-22 season, but they were the 8th seed because Paul George only played 31 games. Kawhi missed the entire year. And then in the 2022-23 season, obviously, Kawhi and Paul George each played about 50-plus games or so. But then you saw in that Suns series last year, Kawhi Leonard, for those first 2 games against the Suns, was peak Kawhi Leonard, and then he went out with a quad injury. So obviously health has been a problem with them, but we just saw this team in the Western Conference Finals a few years ago for the first time in the franchise's history. And now, the stars are healthy. Paul George has only missed 3 games. Kawhi Leonard has only missed 4 games. James Harden, who has been injured on and off the last 3 or 4 seasons, he's back to being durable. He's played in every single game since he got traded to the Clippers. And with all of them healthy, they are just getting more and more chemistry together, and they are proven to be one of the best teams in the NBA. And I would venture to say that this is pretty clearly the best team the Clippers have had in its franchise's history. Better than the team that made it to the Western Conference Finals, better than any of the Lob City teams. So I think when people say that, oh, here we go, believing in the Clippers again, oh, can they stay healthy, all this other stuff, I just think it's lazy analysis. We have seen Kawhi Leonard scorch the playoffs every time he's played and has been healthy. And that's really the only thing holding the Clippers back right now. I would still pick the Nuggets to come out of the Western Conference because they have Jokic, the best player in the world, and they have the best 2-man game, and they have the best starting 5 in the NBA, and some of their young bench pieces like Peyton Watson. People need to be paying attention to the rise of Peyton Watson. But when it comes to the Clippers, as long as they have that man number 2 healthy, as long as Paul George is healthy, as long as James Harden is healthy, I'm not so worried about his playoff flameouts if he's going to be the 3rd option on a championship team, and he's been playing fantastic as the 3rd option. I could definitely see the Clippers and the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers did beat them. I would still take the Nuggets, but once again, we need to recognize this Clippers team as a potential finals team.